Good morning and welcome. I'm Cybersecurity Sensei Scotty Ward here to talk with you today about cyber insurance. This is a topic that we've lightly covered recently, but with a recent share from two of our mentees, they brought a questionnaire that I thought was superb to be able to share with the team, but I wanted to make sure that everybody understood the format of it, the content of it, and how best to use it to introduce people to the topic of cyber insurance. It's a great tool, but I'm going to talk a little bit about, what makes it so good and why it's important to use tools like this. So with that, I'm going to move to the next slide. Have you ever been in a situation where somebody, it could even be in a social context, but because they know that you are dealing with cybersecurity, you have something to do with cybersecurity, and they don't, they ask you questions like, well, how should we handle this, or what should we do, or what do you think is the next step for us, etc. They ask questions like that. And what I want us all to think about is, what would be your response to that? And before we go any further, remember that this is not like a job interview. At a job interview, they ask you a question like, how do you split a subnet or something like that, and you answer to the best of your knowledge without referring to any other texts or tools or anything like that. They ask a question and you answer them directly and as heroically as you can. The issue is, this is someone who's asking for specific steps. You know that there are going to be specific steps that are going to be necessary for them, and they're asking you because they know that you are in the cybersecurity career field. So you've got to be really careful about this, because you could be measured on, and let me go to the next one, you could also be penalized based on an incorrect answer or an incomplete answer. For example, if they say, what should I do? And you answer 3 of the 4 things that they need to do, even if it's off the cuff, you've got to be really careful, because if you miss that 4th thing and they take what you say verbatim and go and do it and it's still not right, you could be held partially responsible for what they've done. So I want everybody to understand that there is a responsibility when someone approaches you and asks a question like this. What are our next steps, or something like this? Okay, so there could be negative repercussions if you do not answer completely and accurately. All right? So as you're preparing to give them an answer, I think it's really important to not use words like I think. You just heard me say it. It's important to not use things like, well, probably this, or I think this, or sort of like this. They could be looking for a very precise answer. And if you don't have a very precise answer, then maybe that's not the thing that you should be answering at that time. You may say, let me get back to you, or something like that. I would also caution you to not rely on AI. And the reason I say that is, if you don't have all of the information and you ask AI, you are placing your trust in AI being able to provide a comprehensive and a correct answer. And you don't have the intellect or the knowledge to verify fully that AI is providing an accurate enough answer to give to someone that comes from AI. You look at it and say, gee, it looks good, and hand it to them. You're still responsible for the output. They asked you, they didn't ask AI. So be very careful about relying on AI for anything that you're not totally sure about. Yes, you can use AI, but you need to confirm the output that AI is providing. All right? So here's what I suggest, a little better type of response. And we're talking about cybersecurity insurance, for example. You could say something like, this is a recent cybersecurity insurance questionnaire that was provided by an insurance company, and it is recent and provides you with a great way to get started so you know some of the steps that are necessary, as well as some of the things that, even if you're not preparing for talking to somebody about cyber insurance, you can use this as your test to see if you're prepared to talk to them, for example. So something like that. So how does this tie into our career field? If you're using your Security Plus study guide, in the exam objectives under 5.0, which is Security Program Management and Oversight, is a section that says explain elements of the risk management process. And some of the strategies for risk management are here at the bottom. I'm not going to go through them, but these are the risk management strategies that are in your study guide. And you're supposed to be able to describe what each one of them does. For the purposes of insurance, we're talking about risk transference. Okay? So that's where it is. It's in 5.2 of your exam objectives. So let's talk about risk transference. I apologize that these are somewhat lengthy statements. I'm just going to try and go through them quickly. In the recording, you can go back and look at them in more detail. But risk transference basically means I have a risk that I've identified, and I give it to somebody else, and they assume part or all of that risk. The way they do that is I pay them, and then if the risk turns into an event covered by the insurance, that they will help to defer the cost of the event itself, and sometimes even collateral damage as well. So that's what happens. Risk transference is insurance. The issue is that most business insurance does not include cyber coverage. And there's a reason for that. Most business insurance is not scaled for the costs that may be incurred in a cyber attack or anything where your data is compromised, exfiltrated, encrypted, etc., where you can't use your data anymore or somebody else gets a hold of your data. So you have to purchase cybersecurity insurance, and it's a totally different ball game than regular business insurance. It's almost never included in business insurance. You've got to go out and get it separately. Here's the problem, though, and this is the next slide. Cyber insurance is becoming increasingly expensive. I've even heard a forecast that a couple people have offered where they say pretty soon the cost to obtain cybersecurity insurance will be basically the same as the cost to inherit all of that risk and mitigate it directly. So it'll be basically there is no advantage to cybersecurity insurance. So that's the big problem. And nowadays, they're requiring the insured, the people who are applying for insurance, to find a way to mitigate their own risk. They call it due diligence before they will even make your insurance policy effective. So something to think about. We're going to go to insurance questionnaires in just a minute. I'm going to review the questionnaire that was shown to me, and I think it's a great one. I think it's got wonderful potential, but again, be careful about saying, here's what you need to do. The accurate thing to do is, this is a questionnaire from an insurance company, and this is what they require you to do before you get your insurance policy with them. You don't even have to state the insurance company, but that takes you off the hook for being the person who answers the questions. All you're doing is saying, here's a questionnaire. All right? Different. And trust me, they don't care where the information comes from. And almost nobody, unless you are in the cybersecurity insurance business, almost nobody should recite this stuff by memory. Use the questionnaire as your tool, and you will be very highly respected as a result. All right? So, just my little statement here, insurance is not a magic pill. I was in a meeting this last year, and there was a member of a unnamed cybersecurity insurance underwriter. And they pointed out, or he mentioned in this meeting, this was a meeting of practitioners. It didn't have anything to do with insurance. It was just cybersecurity practitioners. He said that his company was receiving about $1 billion, that's with a B, $1 billion in claims monthly already from companies that had claimed that they were subjects of some sort of attack, insider threat, something like that. $1 billion a month they were receiving claims, and they were paying out only 10% of those claims. In other words, 90% of the people that had obtained cyber insurance through his company were being turned down when they filed their claims. The reason, they hadn't done their due diligence, and the insurance company could come back and say, listen, you lied to us, or you filled this out and didn't tell the full truth, or whatever. So be very, very careful. Cybersecurity insurance in itself is not a magic pill. It's not the answer to all your woes. Okay? So I think this is my last slide. Yeah, this is my last slide, and then we'll go take a look at the questionnaire, which again, you should go to the questionnaire, you should refer to the questionnaire, you should help walk them through the questionnaire or whatever, but don't, if somebody says, what should I do, don't go, well, you know, I think the best, you could probably, no. Go straight to the source and then refer to the source, and they will highly respect you rather than, gee, I think you ought to do this. Don't say that. They're asking you for specific steps. At that point, you are providing cybersecurity consultation services. It's got to be accurate or don't say it. Okay? And again, you don't know everything. You shouldn't know everything. They shouldn't expect you to know everything. When they ask a question, they're not expecting you to give them a full slate of services that they need to perform. What they're asking is, how can I find out what we need to do? Okay? Know where to find the answers. This worksheet that I'm going to provide to everybody is a great way to get started on that. Okay? And then just refer to the sheet. And AI is not yet something that I would consider to be a fully trustworthy source unless you can double check it. And how do you double check it? Maybe you use this checklist, for example. So let me bring up the, here are the questions from that questionnaire. I hope you can see them okay. There we go. And I'm just going to quickly go through these. Do you implement virus control? Do you check for security patches? Do you replace all your factory default settings? See, all of these make perfect sense. But if you can't remember them and repeat them out to the people that ask you the question, refer to this instead. This is better than your memory. Do you have a way to detect access or attempts to access sensitive information? Do you know what sensitive or information or private information is in your custody? Good questions. Do you authenticate and encrypt all remote access to your network? Good one. Do you have a company policy governing security and acceptable use of company property? If it's an insider threat and they didn't sign any sort of acceptable use policy that says this is a no-no, then you probably can't prosecute them anyway. The worst you can do is fire them while they wander out the door with your trade secrets because you did not tell them the acceptable use is this is our stuff. You didn't tell them. You didn't make them sign the AUP. And so it's your fault. Just something to think about. Do you limit access to data on a need-to-know basis? And no, I'm the president, so I need to know is not a need to know. I've been in so many organizations where people get access and then they get promoted. They're literally not in that role anymore, but they have retained their legacy access and it's no longer acceptable. Remember that. It's called privilege creep. I got this when I was the sysadmin, but now I'm the CISO. Well, the CISO doesn't need the same privileges as he was in his prior role. That means his privileges should be withdrawn. Yes, even for the CISO. Okay? That's something that you can bring to them when you're talking to them about this. On your wireless networks, do you use security at least WPA strength? Do you control or track changes to your network? Do you have a prominently disclosed privacy policy, and do you honor it? And last, it says at least once a year, do you provide security training for your people? Just something to think about. So let's go to the questionnaire. I'm going to size it up a little bit, but here are those 12 questions, and this questionnaire goes even deeper and literally says, this is why we do it, this is resources that we use, and here are resources you can use to determine if you are doing things to the same level we're describing here. It's a great questionnaire. And you notice it has no company name on it. It is totally generic, so it's not company private information. It is a generic questionnaire for cybersecurity insurance. All right? And it comes from an insurance provider. antivirus, spyware. So that's number one. And it even shows links to resources where they can verify even what was written in this sheet. And goes through. Here's number two. Do you check for patches? Patch management, appropriate controls, and here's the NIST.gov resource that refers to it. Next one, factory default settings. And it says why it's not a good idea to have anything with factory default settings. Your security cameras, your operational technology, your programmable logic controllers, even, and this is something that we had a couple of years ago, even the fish tank thermometer that was in your fish tank, change the default password. Somebody didn't and got in trouble. So, I think as you go through this, you notice that it talks about it, it describes it, it says why it's important, it says to what extent it's important, and then it points out resources to help them implement it. All you have done in your consulting role when they asked you the question was you provided this as a resource that they can use to determine if they are ready to apply for cyber insurance. All right? You didn't answer their question. You provided them so much more than an answer. You provided them a pathway to success, a pathway to a better security posture, and also a pathway for them, if they so choose, to become accepted for cybersecurity insurance. See what I'm saying? It's not just an answer. You have literally facilitated their increased security readiness. Literally, if they follow all of these things, then they may not even need cybersecurity insurance. They are mitigating their own risks by implementing these controls that are listed. Okay? Are there any questions? I've kind of gone through this quickly, but I think this is a very complex question and answer, but I wanted to make sure that everything is out there. This questionnaire literally covers to the depth that an insurance provider is going to ask as well. Any questions? Any thoughts? Norman, do you have anything? This was your questionnaire, and I thank you for providing it to us. When you did your pen testing demo, I latched onto this and have reviewed it, and I said, this is hot. This is something that everybody on our team needs to have.
Yeah,
what do you...
I don't have any questions, but I just, my opinion about this is, I don't know, if I can decide, I would never have a cybersecurity insurance. So I would mostly invest like in cybersecurity in-house. So having people to take care of everything instead, like just relying on the cybersecurity insurance. I'm not saying it's not good to have it, but if we have, I would have like something extra, just one extra layer of security, not rely 100% on cybersecurity insurance. Like you mentioned, like you might be kind of like insured, but like once something happens, then they will go through all of those things. Like you mentioned that you implemented in your IT infrastructure, and if you're missing something, you're not getting your money. So that's why I think it's the better ways to kind of more invest in cybersecurity, hire more people, you know, kind of be ready for any kind of incident and be ready to respond instead, like, again, relying on the cybersecurity issues. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you. A lot of people don't recognize that the cyber insurance underwriters are not paying out. People have cut corners. They have, falsified. They have, overstated. They've said, we do this when they're, like, well, we're getting to the point where we're about to think about doing it or something like that. And they get caught in an event that occurs and it's devastating for them, but they got the insurance and now they're turning to the insurance provider, and the insurance provider saying, you didn't do the due diligence. We asked you, did you do this? And you said yes. And yet when you have the thing occur and we audit, we found out the answer to that should have been no. In that case, this is not a covered event. Sorry, all of your premiums that you've paid, you've just given to them so they could bring their auditor out and look at your organization and say, sorry, not covered. So yeah, you've got to be really careful. The cost to implement cybersecurity insurance as compared to the cost of doing your own risk management may be not worth it. I guess that's a way of saying it. Harminder.
Yes, thank you very much, Security. This is very interesting topics because I don't know about we have a cyber insurance too. So I'm just talking about the organizations I am working. So we are using the CrowdStrike product for our all the PCs and everything, and we are paying for them too, and it is very expensive. So we have a cybersecurity engineer. They are monitoring their end on own end. On the top of CrowdStrike is also monitoring our network too, ki what is going on or what is not going on. The question I have, if still something is happened, do we have to purchase the cyber insurance, or we don't need to be purchase the cyber insurance because we are paying a lot of money to the CrowdStrike because we buy the license per PC and all these things, or they are responsible for everything if there is a cyber incident happen. For example, we have, I think the last year or this year, the CrowdStrike incident happened when everything shut down, airlines. Do the CrowdStrike have, because CrowdStrike is our own company, they're providing the product and monitoring all the network. Do the CrowdStrike or our organization need the cyber insurance or no? So that is my question.
That's a very good question, and I can't answer it. Sadly, I mean, if it was that simple, where you ask your mentor, does my hospital system need cyber insurance? you could have answered it within your own organization. But
thank you, Scotty. You brought it. I definitely asked my cyber engineer, and he's my buddy of my buddy. I definitely asked him something. Yeah, but he talked to me. He said, we are monitoring the network. We are getting the alert and everything. If something is happen on the top of the CrowdStrike monitoring too, but the insurance, the topic you brought. So is this need a small business, or is this need everybody, the cyber insurance? So that is my question. So is this because we are our organization is a big organization dealing with the healthcare center. We are a very, very protect the HIPAA law and everything. So I have no idea do they have it or no, or do they, because we have a product that we know, but do the small business, they are getting the services from the third party. So do they need to buy the insurance? I don't know how this works, this thing.
Right. I'll just give you my understanding of how some of these things work. Frequently, when you outsource a service, in this case to CrowdStrike, the service is theirs. The performance of the service level agreements, etc., you actually have a written contract that says this is the extent to which we provide services, etc. However, they do not usually inherit the risk. Your organization still owns the risk. You have outsourced the risk, part of the risk management. You've outsourced maybe part of the risk mitigation because you are wholly using their services, but you still, as an organization, own the risk if something is attacked or compromised. So be very, very careful about that. I don't know, but my instinct tells me that CrowdStrike provides lots of services to a certain extent. But for example, CrowdStrike cannot provide any sort of coverage or capability or mitigation if you don't have an acceptable use policy and make everybody sign it. If you don't have that, then you literally have left the door open for insider threats, for example. If you didn't tell me I can't do it, then I guess I can. See what I'm saying? That's the challenge. It's the answer is, again, I don't know for sure. All I can point out is that in a risk transference situation, they will only inherit some of the risk. The rest of it remains with your company. Okay?
Yes, thank you. I got it, but I can find more. I really like the cyber insurance topic. It is really different. I never heard. I only know the cybersecurity protect the PCs and everything, but I don't know the cybersecurity need insurance too. Oh wow, that's great.
Right.
Yeah.
And the challenge these days is that, well, number one, the insurance providers aren't paying, and you don't know it until you get compromised. And what they're going to do is they're going to, it's sort of like if you have car insurance and your car insurance covers, the front half of the car, but it doesn't cover the back half. Somebody runs into the back of your car and you say, hey, I have car insurance.
Yes.
But not for that. And the insurance companies are really good at auditing to find out if you kept your end of the agreement. And the agreement was that questionnaire that you filled out and said, oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah, we do that. And guess what? You didn't. So don't expect them to be nice. They are a business. And when you file something that says, give us, $4 million because we just got compromised, they're going to do their best to make sure that it is truly what was listed in the contract you signed, and you did your due diligence. You played your part in providing risk mitigation. So, all right, that's all I had for today. Anybody else have any questions before I stop recording? Okay, cool beans. Thank you so much.